there's a moment when you wake up in the morning and your heart feels heavy, but you don't know why. Nothing is really wrong, but nothing feels right either. You go through the motions, checking your phone, brushing your teeth, pouring coffee, but deep down something is missing. You can't quite name it, but you feel it, like a quiet ache under your skin. Maybe you've built a good life. Maybe people think you've made it, but when it's just you and the silence, you wonder, is this all there is? If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. I've been there too, feeling stuck, successful on the outside, but lost on the inside. And the truth is, that feeling of being lost, it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's your soul's quiet whisper, asking you to come home. Today, in this video, I want to walk with you, not as an expert who has it all figured out, but as someone who's been where you are and found a way forward. Together, we'll explore what it really means to find your purpose, not in a job title, not in a bank account, but in something deeper, something that sets you free. Let's talk about that feeling, that weird, restless tension that shows up when you're sitting in a meeting, scrolling through job listings at 1 a.m., or staring at your ceiling wondering, how did I end up here? You might have a decent job, a good partner, a roof over your head, and yet you feel off, like something is missing. Here's the thing no one tells you. You can be high-functioning and completely disconnected from yourself at the same time. You can be checking all the boxes, but not your own. We call it being stuck, but it's not like your feet are glued to the floor. It's more like your soul took the wrong exit 3 years ago, and now you're somewhere that looks like success, but it doesn't feel like home. And you know what makes it worse? We've been taught to treat purpose like it's a career goal or a fancy about me section on LinkedIn. Find your purpose, they say, like it's hiding under your pillow next to your 401k. So we chase after titles, promotions, accolades. We work 60-hour weeks hoping to feel fulfilled. We say things like, I'm just staying here for the benefits, while our inner voice is quietly screaming, get me out of here! And when we don't feel fulfilled, we assume something is wrong with us. That we're lazy, ungrateful, or maybe just not disciplined enough. Spoiler alert, that's not the problem. Most people aren't stuck because they lack motivation. They're stuck because they're living someone else's version of success. Here's a truth that changed my life. Being stuck is not failure. It's feedback. It's your inner compass trying to recalibrate. It's your body whispering, this isn't it, keep going. But instead of listening, most of us numb it. We scroll, we binge, we work harder. Because facing the truth would mean admitting, I have no idea what I actually want. And that's scary, right? Because if we don't know what we want, where do we even begin? Well, that's what we're going to figure out today. Because in the next part of this video, I'll show you how that stuckness isn't a dead end. It's a doorway. And we're going to walk right through it together. Starting with something you've probably never thought of as helpful before, your pain. Let's go there. Let's talk about pain. Yeah, I know. Fun topic, right? Nothing like a little emotional suffering to spice up your Tuesday. But stay with me. Because what if I told you, your pain isn't here to break you? What if it's actually here to guide you? Sounds weird, I know. Most of us have been trained to avoid discomfort at all costs. We numb it with food, scroll past it on Instagram, or drown it in just one more Netflix episode. But here's the truth. no one told us in school. Suffering is a signal, not a sentence. It's your inner GPS saying, hey, you're off course. And the louder it gets, the more urgent the message. You know that tight knot in your chest before Monday meetings? That anxiety you feel every time you hear the Slack notification? That voice in your head that says, this isn't it? That's not weakness. That's your soul saying, I'm suffocating here. The problem, Eastway, treat pain like an enemy. We think, if I were stronger, I wouldn't feel this way. Or worse, I just need to push through. But here's what I've learned. Pain is not your problem. Avoiding it is. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine worked in finance for 10 years. Great salary, smart coworkers, office with a view. But she'd wake up every morning and cry in the shower. Not because anything bad had happened, but because nothing real was happening either. And for years, she told herself, it's fine. I should be grateful. It's not that bad. But that's the trap. When we label soul-level suffering as not that bad, we settle for a life that's just okay. And let me tell you something. Just okay is not what you came here for. Eventually, she started listening to that inner discomfort. She followed it like a trail. And guess what? It led her to start a nonprofit teaching kids about emotional intelligence, something she never would have planned on a vision board. So here's the truth bomb I want to drop on you. Your pain has a purpose. Not to punish you, but to point you back to yourself. And I get it. It's scary. Because the moment we sit still and listen, the pain speaks up. But what it says might just set you free. Now, let me pause here because I want to bust one more myth. We often think that healing, or finding purpose, means getting rid of pain. Nope. The real breakthrough comes when we stop running from it and start asking, what are you trying to show me? That shift from resistance to curiosity changes everything. So here's your invitation. Next time you feel stuck, sad, anxious, or lost, don't scroll it away. Sit with it. Ask it, what's underneath this? Because sometimes the thing that hurts the most is the thing that heals the deepest. And now that we've seen how suffering can actually be a compass, not a curse, let me show you how to use that compass. Not in some abstract, follow your heart kind of way, but with something practical, tangible, a step-by-step map you can actually follow. Let's talk about purpose mapping and how to finally stop guessing and start discovering why you're really here. Let's take a breath together. Because this next part, it's not about doing more. It's about feeling more. And no, I don't mean crying in the bathroom at work, though. Hey, we've all been there. What I'm talking about is emotional awareness. The kind that helps you stop reacting from autopilot and start responding with purpose. See, most of us were never taught how to feel. We were taught how to perform, how to please, how to push through. So we do. Until one day, we realize we've been living with our shoulders up to our ears, our jaw clenched, and our heart on mute. So here's a simple exercise I want you to try right now. You don't need a journal, a yoga mat, or a Himalayan salt lamp, just you. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Take a slow breath in. And now, ask yourself, where in my body am I holding tension right now? Is it your chest, your stomach, your neck? Next question. If that tension could speak, what would it say? And one more. What emotion is underneath this? You can use the 4 basics: mad, sad, glad, scared. Surprisingly simple, but surprisingly true. Here's an example. You feel a lump in your throat before a meeting. You think it's stress, but when you listen closely, it's fear of being judged, dismissed, misunderstood. Now here's the twist. Instead of pushing that fear away, flip it. Ask, what is the opposite of this fear trying to teach me? If the fear says, you're not ready, the opposite might say, this is your moment. When you feel both, your body will tell you which one feels like freedom. Here's the big lesson. Emotions aren't problems, they're portals. And if you walk through them eyes, even the messy, uncomfortable ones, you come out with something powerful. Self-trust. So, the next time you feel off, don't just numb it or scroll it away. Sit with it. Ask it. Flip it. Because sometimes, the most important message you'll hear today is coming from inside your own body. If this exercise brought you a little clarity, a big exhaladont, keep it to yourself. Comment below with the emotion that surprised you most. Share this with someone who could use a moment of stillness. And if this kind of clarity speaks to your soul, hit subscribe. We're just getting started. Now that you've started to listen inward, it's time to move forward. Let me show you how to map all of this into something you can actually see your purpose map. Let's get into it. Okay, now that we've made peace with our emotions and maybe even cried a little in the car, no judgment, it's time to get practical. Because clarity doesn't just come from thinking. It comes from creating a map. One that helps you see your purpose not as a magical lightning strike, but as something you can build toward, step by step. So let me introduce you to one of my favorite tools, the purpose map. Think of it like a Venn diagram, but one that actually changes your life. There are 4 circles. Grab a pen if you want to follow along. Circle 1, what you love. Ask yourself, what lights you up? What would you do even if no one paid you? This isn't just about passion, it's about energy. The kind of things that make time disappear. For me, it's writing and deep conversations, especially when there's good coffee and no small talk. Mistake people make here? They confuse what they used to love with what they love right now. So be honest with where you are now, not who you were 5 years ago. Circle 2, what you're good at. This includes natural talents and learned skills. Ask yourself, what do people often come to you for? What feels easy to you but hard for others? One client of mine said, I'm just organizing chaos. Turns out, she became a systems coach for overwhelmed entrepreneurs. She built a 6-figure business doing what came naturally. Lesson? Don't dismiss your gifts just because they feel effortless. That's the point. Circle 3, what the world needs. This is where your purpose stops being just about you. Ask, what problems do you feel drawn to? Whose pain breaks your heart? Maybe it's helping teenagers with anxiety, or guiding new moms through identity shifts, or building better workplaces where people aren't afraid to be themselves. Mel Robbins touched on this idea, but let's go deeper. The world doesn't need you to be everything. It just needs you to be you. In the place where your compassion meets someone else's pain. Circle 4, what people will pay for. Yep, this one gets awkward. We don't want to talk about money and purpose in the same breath. But listen, financial sustainability is not greed, it's longevity. Ask, what value do I offer that solves a real problem? Where have I seen people pay for help, support, or transformation? And no, You don't need a million followers or an MBA. You need to connect real value to real people. One guy I coached loved gaming, storytelling, and psychology. He now runs a YouTube channel that breaks down character development in video games, and it pays his rent. Now here's where the magic happens. Find the overlap of these 4 circles. That's your purpose zone. It might not be obvious at first. It might take journaling, conversations, and lots of coffee-fueled reflection. But the more you explore these intersections, the clearer your why becomes. And remember, your purpose zone doesn't have to look glamorous. It just has to feel like truth. That's why this isn't a one-time exercise. It's a compass. You revisit it as you evolve. Because your purpose? It's not a destination. It's a direction. And once you start walking toward it, your body will tell you, yes, this, keep going. So now that we've got a sense of what your purpose could be, let's talk about how to stay connected to it. Day after day, in the middle of real life, responsibilities, and even laundry. Next, we'll walk through 3 daily habits that help you live from your purpose note. Just think about it. Let's get into it. So, you've started mapping out your purpose and it actually feels exciting, maybe even a little terrifying. That's normal. If your purpose doesn't scare you just a little, it's probably not big enough. But now the real question becomes, how do you stay connected to it every day, especially when life gets loud? Because it's one thing to journal about your dreams on a Sunday afternoon. It's another thing to remember them on a Wednesday morning when your inbox is on fire and the cat just threw up on your shoes. That's where daily flow techniques come in. These aren't hacks. They're rituals that train your nervous system to stay rooted in clarity, even when the world is chaotic. Let me walk you through 3 of the most powerful practices I use and teach. 1. Sensory meditation. 3-5 minutes. This isn't your typical sit still and think of nothing meditation. It's about tuning in, not tuning out. Here's how it works. Step 1. Name 3 things you can see. Step 2. Name 2 things you can hear. Step 3. Name 1 thing you can feel physically. Your breath, your shirt, on your skin, etc. Why this matters? Because purpose lives in the now. Not in your to-do list, not in the version of you 5 years from now. This practice grounds your awareness, so you stop spiraling and start noticing. Mistake people make? They wait to feel zen before they do this. But the point isn't to feel perfect, it's to feel present. 2. Emotional journaling, morning or night. This isn't a diary. You're not writing, "Dear Diary, today I had salad." You're writing to yourself from your truth. Prompt 1. What do I feel drawn toward today? Prompt 2. What emotion is trying to get my attention? Prompt 3. My favorite. If I lived like my purpose mattered, what would I do today? This helps you track patterns. What energizes you? What drains you? Where your resistance hides. One of my clients wrote this prompt every day for 30 days. By day 12, she realized she kept writing, "I wish I had time to paint." By day 30, she had sold her first watercolor online. Lesson? When you write what you're afraid to say out loud, you uncover what's quietly waiting to come alive. 3. Guided imagination exercise. Nighttime. Think of this like Netflix. But you're the writer, director, and lead actor, and the budget is unlimited. Before bed, close your eyes and walk through your ideal day as if it already exists. Where do you wake up? What does your space feel like? Who are you with? What does your workday feel like, not just look like? Use all your senses: smell, sound, emotion. Why this works? Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagined and remembered. When you rehearse your purpose in your mind, you build neural pathways that support it in real life. Mistake people make? They imagine the goal but not the emotion. Purpose isn't just having a podcast. It's waking up excited because your voice matters. Now look, I'm not saying you need to do all 3 practices perfectly every single day. This isn't a checklist. It's a conversation with your future self. The point is to create daily moments where you remember who you are and who you're becoming. Even 5 minutes can shift your energy. And that energy shifts your choice. And sometimes it comes at a cost. So, in the next section, I want to share a true story, a real-life case of someone who dared to live their truth and what they lost and gained in the process. Let's talk about the price of purpose and why it's always worth it. Let's get honest for a second. It's easy to talk about purpose when it feels exciting, empowering, Instagrammable. But let's talk about what happens when living your truth actually costs you something. Because sometimes stepping into your real self doesn't come with a standing ovation. It comes with silence, or judgment, or losing people who loved the old youth version who played it safe. Let me tell you about Sarah. She had what most people would call a great life. Good salary, stable marriage, suburban house with a Pinterest-worthy kitchen. But every time she looked in the mirror, she felt like she was watching someone else's life play out. And for years, she told herself, "This is fine. I should be happy." Until one day, her therapist asked a question that cracked everything open. Whose life are you actually living? That night, Sarah wrote down one sentence in her journal. "I don't want to be a good wife. I want to be an honest woman." That was the beginning. Over the next year, she left her marriage not because he was a bad person, but because she had become a stranger to herself. She moved into a tiny apartment, started writing again, took a barista job at 36. Her friends thought she was having a midlife crisis. Her mom said, "Honey, are you okay?" And here's the truth. She wasn't not at first. She cried in grocery store parking lots. She doubted herself every night. She missed the comfort of her old life. But she also started laughing again. She danced in her kitchen barefoot to music she actually liked. She wrote essays under her real name and got published. She made less money, but felt rich in a way she couldn't explain. And one day, while sipping cheap wine on her fire escape, she whispered to herself, "This is the first time I've ever felt like me." Here's why I'm telling you this. Because we don't talk enough about the in-between. The messy middle between the life you built out of expectation and the one you're creating out of truth. And that space? It's uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels like a free fall. But here's the lesson. When you lose what's false, you make space for what's real. And yes, it can be painful. But pain that comes from becoming your true self is a pain worth feeling. Now, you might not need to leave your marriage or quit your job to live your truth. But there is some version of yourself that's waiting to be set free. And you don't need to do it all at once. You just need to start telling the truth to yourself first. So here's a journaling prompt to take with you. What part of my life looks good on the outside but feels heavy on the inside? And remember, you're not crazy for wanting more. You're just finally listening to the part of you that refuses to settle. Now, in the next part of this video, I want to shift gears and talk about something we often confuse with purpose: productivity. Because chasing checklists is not the same as living your truth. Let's talk about that difference and why it matters more than ever. Let's talk about something sneaky. Something that looks like purpose, feels a little like purpose, but can actually pull you further away from it. Productivity. Yup, I said it. We live in a culture that worships checklists. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with getting things done. But here's the danger. Productivity without purpose is just performance. You're moving fast, but going nowhere. And let's be real, it's so easy to fall into the trap. You start your morning with good intentions, but by 10 a.m., you're already in go mode, answering emails, crossing off tasks, updating spreadsheets, putting out fires. And by the end of the day, you've been busy for 10 hours, and you still feel empty. Sound familiar? Let me tell you about Brian. He was the guy who always looked productive. Color-coded calendar, meal prepped Sundays, inbox zero. But one day, he admitted, "I feel like I'm managing my life, but I'm not actually living it." Boom. That's the difference. Purpose fuels you from the inside. Productivity? It often just distracts you from what you're afraid to feel. Here's a quick test. Are you doing something because it aligns with your values? That's purpose. Are you doing it because it makes you feel useful or validated? That's productivity trying to earn your worth. Big difference. And don't get me wrong, purpose can look productive. But not all productivity is purposeful. You can check off 23 things today and still ignore the one thing that really matters. That phone call you're scared to make. That creative idea you keep pushing off. That honest conversation with yourself. Why does this matter? Because when we confuse productivity with purpose, we burn out chasing gold stars that don't mean anything to our soul. We become human doings instead of human beings. So what's the fix? Ask yourself this question every morning. What would feel meaningful, not just efficient today? Maybe it's writing that messy paragraph of your book. Maybe it's calling your dad. Maybe it's sitting quietly for 5 minutes and not checking your damn phone. Purpose isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like slowing down enough to hear what your inner voice is actually saying. So here's the invitation. Stop measuring your day by how many tasks you finished. Start measuring it by how connected you felt to yourself, to others, to what matters. And if you're ready to shift from performance to presence, there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to talk about. Community. Because walking your purpose path alone is possible, but it's a whole lot harder and a lot less joyful. Let's talk about how to find your people. So by now, you've done some serious inner work. You've listened to your emotions, mapped your purpose, even untangled the myth that busyness equals meaning. But before you run off to reinvent your life, let's talk about something just as important as clarity: safety. Because transformation doesn't happen in chaos. It happens in cocoons. Let me explain. When a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it doesn't just grow wings overnight. It literally dissolves into goo inside the cocoon, total biological breakdown. Which is kind of how you feel during a quarter-life crisis, right? And during that messy, beautiful, confusing process, the cocoon does one job. It protects the transformation. You need that too. Because stepping into your purpose, your truth often, means stepping away from people, patterns, and places that once felt familiar, but now feel heavy. That doesn't mean cutting everyone off and moving to a mountain in Peru. It could, but let's start small. It means being intentional about your environment, who and what you surround yourself with while your new self takes shape. So let's break it down. 1. Emotional safe zones. These are the people or spaces where you can say, "I'm scared," or "I don't know who I am anymore," and not get fixed, judged, or rushed. Could be a trusted friend who listens without advice, a therapist who helps you untangle the mess, a support group where everyone's mid-transformation, just like you. Mistake people make? They try to keep growing in the same environment that caused the stuckness. Newsflash: your wings won't grow in a cage. 2. Purpose-aligned communities. You don't need a crowd, you need alignment. Look for mastermind groups. 3. 5 people committed to personal growth. Spiritual, creative retreats, not just yoga and smoothies real conversations. Online tribes, subreddits like R, self-improvement, communities on Circle, even Instagram DMs can become sacred spaces. One of my clients joined a virtual book club that turned into a life pod. Every Sunday, they share one courageous act they did that week. She told me, "It's the only place I feel like I don't have to pretend." That's the goal. 3. Create micro cocoons daily. You don't always need a weekend retreat. Sometimes, your cocoon is 10 minutes of quiet journaling before the world wakes up. Turning your phone on airplane mode while you paint, stretch, pray. Saying no to a draining dinner invite so you can say yes to your own breath. Building a cocoon isn't selfish. It's sacred strategy. Because here's the truth. You can't become who you're meant to be while pretending to be who you're not. And the world may not understand your pause, your distance, your soft nose, but your soul will. So protect your becoming. Wrap yourself in grace, in silence, in community, not because you're hiding, but because you're rebuilding. And when you're ready, that cocoon, it opens. You stretch, you rise, you fly. But before we close today, I want to make sure everything we've covered doesn't just inspire you in the moment, but actually transforms your life moving forward. So, in our final section, let's bring it all together with a gentle recap, a few powerful takeaways, and a simple challenge to carry with you from this moment on. Let's land this together. Phew! If you've made it here, first of all, give yourself a little credit. Most people binge 3 episodes of Netflix before they ever ask themselves a real question. You just spent almost an hour with yourself. That's not nothing. That's rare. Let's take a breath. And let's bring everything home. You started this video feeling maybe a little lost. Maybe successful on the outside, but tired on the inside. Maybe like your life made sense, but not meaning. And along the way, here's what we uncovered. That stuckness isn't a sign you're failing, it's a signal you're ready to evolve. That your emotions aren't the enemy, they're messengers. That your purpose doesn't show up like a job title, it unfolds through your gifts, your pain, your joy, and your curiosity. That daily practice small, sacred, consistent help you stay in flow, even when life gets loud. That living your truth might cost you comfort, but what you gain is you. That productivity without purpose is a trap, and presence is the escape. And that transformation needs protection, a cocoon, a community, A space to be soft while you grow strong. Now, I know it's a lot. It's not the kind of content you just listen to once and move on from. So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't need to change your life overnight. You don't need to quit your job or move to the mountains or write a memoir by Friday. Unless that's been on your to-do list, then go for it. You just need to begin where you are, with what you know now. So pick one thing, not 5, not 10, just one. Maybe it's journaling tonight with that one prompt. What part of my life looks good on the outside but feels heavy on the inside? Maybe it's saying no to something that drains you just once this week. Maybe it's sharing this video with a friend who needs a lifeline. Whatever it is, make it yours. Because no video, not even this one, can replace your own voice. That's the voice we're here to awaken. That's the compass you've been carrying this whole time. And if this video helped you take one step toward your truth, then this wasn't just content, it was connection. So here's my gentle challenge to you. Don't just feel inspired. Take action. Even if it's quiet, even if it's messy, especially if it's messy. Because living with purpose isn't about having all the answers. It's about being honest enough to start asking better questions. And hey, if you ever forget who you are, just come back here. We'll figure it out again, together. You're not alone. You're just beginning. If something in this video stirred something in you, a thought, a truth, a quiet yes, hold on to that. Don't let it get buried by the next scroll, the next distraction, the next, I'll do it later. This is your moment. And moments like this, they're not accidents. If even one part of today's journey made you pause, reflect, or breathe a little deeper, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share what landed for you most. Your words might be the sign someone else needs too. If you know someone who's been feeling stuck, lost, or just quietly holding it all together, send them this video, not as advice, but as a reminder. They're not alone, and neither are you. And if you want more space like this, more truth, more clarity, more tools to build a life that actually feels like your shit, subscribe and stay close. Because here at Limitless Confidence, we're not chasing perfection. We're coming home to who we really are. Together. You're already on the path. Keep going.